doom, 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 doom. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Welcome to TCB Studios. Welcome to Burn It Down. God, I love that new introduction. Big shout out to Jamie Bennett. Thank you so much. It is just awesome. Shout out to our sponsor, Kelly's Death Pickles. I had a personal meeting at Boggs with Kelly Hester yesterday in the West End. And Death Pickles has some big stuff coming up. And he will be on the show shortly down the road to announce it, because we want to be part of it and watch him and these pickles just grow and get into everyone's mouths in the world. Biggest shout out to the DJ behind the scenes, producer on the Wheels of Steel, director in the director seats, Renee Yaworski. Thank you for everything you do. Appreciate you big time. Tonight's guest, what can I say? Well, I've known her more than half my life. That right there is amazing. And so many awesome, wonderful, badass, cool things I've experienced. She's been right next to me. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Cassy.
Hey.
What? I like when you just come on and you go, hey. We already got you laughing and blushing. You look beautiful. How you doing?
I'm doing good. You were talking about death pickles. I was really happy to see Kelly yesterday. I bought a whole bunch of death pickles. He had some pickled watermelon rind.
Oh my goodness, red onions. He's got so much big stuff coming up. We all have big stuff coming up, and that's what we're going to get into. But I have a few things going on with Kelly that I can't wait to announce myself. Basically, I just want to get into the pickle business. I love it. They are that good. I've said it before. When the guys in Slayer tweet and say, "We love this guy's pickles." I mean, the scariest band on the planet. They're actually dads and granddads and like sweethearts and teddy bears, and they just love pickles.
They have good taste in pickles.
Yes, they have good taste in pickles. Good taste in death metal and good taste in pickles.
Yeah.
So Cassy, such an exciting guest for me, and the notes have been all over the place today. And then half the time I scribble it out and I go, well, let's just let this whole thing go like our life. Like our relationship, like everything, and happen organically, which means at some point someone might just attack me from behind and punch me in the face, or hit me. Because anything can happen.
Our friendship is the craziest, and it's just it's such an incredible story, because we have been, when we tell people that I met you in the fall of '94. And so when I tell people that, like how long we've been friends, because you've known a lot of people a long time. I mean, people flock to you because you're so charismatic and you make people feel special. No, it's true though. And a lot of people like say this about you. Whenever you're engaging with somebody, you make them feel like they're the center of the world, and everybody. And so you give this specialness to the people around you. And I became friends with you, and that was one of the things that struck me earliest on, but it kind of shaped my life, because I had moved.
Getting chills right now.
I had gone to school in Athens as a transfer student. So I was 21, and Athens is such a fun town. And there's so many good bands and there's not much in the world that I like more than like, beer and music, live music. So my GPA kind of like tanked, but I had met,
Yeah, you learned a lot, but not at school.
but not at school. So I had met Brian Kinchelow, and so at that point, my family, so I could get in-state tuition, my mom was in the Army, had gotten transferred to Atlanta, so I could continue getting in-state tuition. Right when I got the letter saying that I will not be going back there again.
Right.
Right. So, but I knew Brian, and he'd come home on the weekends, and you knew Brian.
Shout out to B. Kinch. And I had just moved to Atlanta from New York, so I'm a few years older than you. You're aging much better than me. You look gorgeous. So I'm 24. I was 24. I had just become wonderful friends with the Kinchelow brothers. Shout out to them. And then we met and hit it off. And one of the funny things is I've told so many people this story, because you as well are a magical person. And we went out and we were talking, and you were telling me about your mom, who I love your mom. Shout out to your mom. And you telling me the story about, like, because I remember when I was a boy, like in New York, it was very famous and so immature for people to tell your mama jokes, oh, your mama this, do that, whatever. And in New York, there was this joke, to be like, your mama's in the Army, and so we went out and had a drink. And you're telling me, you're like, yeah, one time this kid said your mama joke to me. He goes, your mama's in the Army. I grabbed him by the neck. I go, damn right she is. You're damn right she did. Yes, she is in the Army. What are you going to do about it?
I did at one point have a coffee mug that said your mom wears combat boots, or my mom that said
your mom wears combat boots. Your mom's in the Army. Your mom wears combat boots. Yes, she does. Yes, she does.
She does. But so you, because I was a transfer student, so I was 21 when I went to UGA, and so then when I moved here, I knew nobody, and Brian introduced me to you, and so it was like you and I mean, we were instant good friends. It wasn't just
we hit it off, best friends. Right. ASAP is not. It was even faster than ASAP. Yes, exactly.
It was pretty instantaneous, and so you pretty much showed me like all the good, places to get beer, all the, and you introduced me to,
all the trouble spots,
all the spots that later we did get into trouble in. Although for somehow we managed to never get arrested. I've never been arrested. I don't know how.
Speak for yourself. I guess after I dropped you off, somehow I got arrested a few times, but we'll talk about that another night.
I got in a lot of car accidents, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I knew that somehow we would talk about that. I do want to give a shout out to my guest last week, who's our partner in rhyme,
for sure.
Mr. James Joyce, who was wonderful as a guest last week. Yes. Wonderful to watch him play drums yesterday afternoon. He's just a wonderful person. I think the three of us have formed this magical connection together, where we're each yings to each other's yangs with the show we have, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But I just wanted to give him a shout out.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting because before I met Brian later at my 1 year at UGA, and I had met James early on. So but we would eat lunch and like breakfast and stuff like all at the same like dining hall, and we're friends with the same people. We weren't super tight, like we knew each other, and like we would have little conversations and stuff, but we weren't super tight. But then I moved to Florida for a while, and then moved back, and it's kind of because of you and our good friend Chuck and Brian and stuff that I ended up meeting my husband.
Shout out to Chuck, yes, and shout out to Greg, the beautiful husband of yours, Patang. Yeah, it is wild, but I will say this, and it's this thing, because you do have this as well, and I joke around and tell people that my dad had no money when I was 11 years old, and he said, "I have no money, son. For Christmas, I'll give you charm." And I go, and I've always done well with the ladies since then. My dad would say, shut up and listen. Like, don't talk about yourself, and just let these women talk. And then when it's time to talk, say the right things, and you'll be surprised how much they're going to like you, Thomas. And so, but you, in many ways, are the female version of me. We both have walked into rooms, and let's just say, if the party wasn't happening, we got there, the party started. James is a bit more reserved, but then more I've gotten to know him, he's just so wonderful and he's so caring, and he does have a wicked dry sense of humor, and
Yeah.
he knows more about music than I do, and I'm a music nerd. I go down rabbit holes. So I just think, like I said, we're the yin to each other's yangs. I absolutely love the way it works together. And he intimidated me. He didn't say much, you know. And I was in bands that opened up for him, and I said hi and bye. And I was like,
yeah. Like
I was like, this guy doesn't like me, and I'm clearly not as talented as him. And then,
he's such a nice person, though. I think he likes just about everybody, like really.
Well, and I couldn't have been any more wrong. And now that we're so close, we talk about it. He goes, "No, Tom." He goes, "You walk into a room and you intimidated me, so I didn't say anything." I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, the best."
That's kind of like me. I mean, because he was just even at UGA. I mean, he was definitely like, he was cool. Like you could tell
he's so cool.
He knew a lot about music. He was in bands. Just cool style. Just being himself. Just cool style.
No, I know.
But so when I got to know, when I got to know Greg and I became, they were in a band. They had been in a band together, and they knew a lot of this. So I kind of got to know James better because through Greg, and so that really helped that. And then, of course, there's the kind of leading into the show, kind of how the show came about.
It's so funny because we'll joke around and I'll be like, yeah, my mom was twisting my ear in front of Miss Sharkey, my sister's piano teacher, and she's like, you're going to sing this song, it'll come out tomorrow right now in front of everyone. I'm crying. And to this day, I still can't hear that song, the theme to Annie. Like, I got to call my therapist right away, you know? And I'm like, my mom's making me wear a bad plastic red Michael Jackson jacket, and the first tape I got was like, Journey, greatest hits, or whatever. And he's like, oh, I got the Buzzcock singles. That's my first record. I'm like, of course you did, James, because I've had to work hard to become cool. You just came out of your mom, and you are that cool. So shout out to James. So much love, and I love doing what we do. But I did want to kind of talk about, before we even get to your birthday party, which made us come up with the show. I've had people texting me all day saying, are you going to talk about Cassy's infamous birthday party before that? When I guess we got into several car accidents in the night. in an evening,
The worst one I think it was your birthday a long time. It was like, I think it might have been like your 27th or something like that. And that one.
Well, let's just say it started off innocent. We were playing darts, having beers at the Prince of Wales. I think it was a very nice night.
I think it was. But I told Chad Radford that story yesterday because he was at the Buzzstock, and I don't.
Shout out Chad Radford and Bauhaus. Yes,
amazing human, amazing, very very nice human. But I tell that story whenever I tell that story, it always kind of like lands. Like I'm like, maybe you just
no one got arrested. That's how we are good people. We are good people. Well, all I know is this. I mean, and listen, for our viewers, I hope that every day, we become wiser, and I certainly hope my heart gets bigger and I become a better person and a better artist. But we were immature. Let's just say I woke up, no one got hurt, and I woke up the next day with not birthday cake on my face, but like on my pants and my sneakers. So I don't think I ate the birthday cake. I think I stepped on it accidentally.
No, it was in the floorboard of the front of my car. I remember that giant 79 Chevy Impala I had.
Yeah. It was a boat. It was a boat on wheels. Yes.
Yes. And you didn't need a key to start it. It was like, because it had like one of those wing nut looking things.
You just put a screwdriver in there or something.
You can just turn the little wing nut thing. So I remember one time, because we worked at the same place. I worked one place during the day, and your day job was like 3 floors above. And then I worked that place at night, 3 floors above. And so we crossed paths, but sometimes I'd look out and I'd see my car and I'd be like, that's interesting that somebody has a big old white car with a brown hood, just like mine. And it wasn't, it was you taking my car for lunch.
Yes. Well, those days, what's funny? I was talking with James Joyce about that the other day. Sometimes these things seem like 3 weeks ago, and sometimes they seem like 3 lifetimes ago. So yes, I had a corporate job at a marketing company. Goodness gracious, you know, I mean, like, talk about losing my mind, you know. And then you worked a few floors below me or above me, and then
Yeah.
at night you came and worked. You worked. I was just talking to Mike Sheena about that last night. It seems like now, and luckily, it seems like lifetimes ago, and we're just in much better places and spaces and everything now, you know.
Yeah.
So this wild thing happens. The world gets shut down. I
Yes.
come here to look after family. New York's a mess. And shout out to Brian Colantuno and Mikey Brennan and the Trackside Tavern. And basically the world shut down because of the pandemic. But things are they're not opening up, but they're being very careful. And he just bought the Trackside Tavern, and they're doing like food service to go, or like, you know, they let 5 people in at a time or whatever. And it was your birthday, and you had this birthday party, and you're like, Brian Colantuno is letting 10 friends come. And I'll never forget, I took an Uber there and hanging out with you and James Joyce, and we're chatting like right during the pandemic. And I basically, you and I always just give each other these compliments, like, oh, and first of all, there's no lie here. You're my favorite music fan. You have this greatest taste in music. Now the only person cool in that might be James Joyce, and so you begin to tell me. And I go, hey James, what's going on? You know, like I've said, I've known you 20 years, but we've only said hi and bye a million times, and it's great, you know. But this is even better, and we're chatting, and then you proceed to say, that's funny because every time I'm with James Joyce, I say Tom has the best taste in music, and then I go, well, that's funny because every time you're with me, you say James has the best taste in music. And I believe that maybe that night or that week I was watching maybe High Fidelity, which always talked about, like, you know, it's based off the
Right. It's
this
a
book.
John Cusack, right? Is that,
Yes, you know,
yeah.
yes, and basically they talk about rating records, and it's kind of like record vinyl snobs, but like working and talking and always rating the 5 best records, the A side, first song off the record, or you know, the song that is named after the title of the record, that kind of thing. And then I had such a good time with you and James that night. By the way, well, I've said it to you a million times. And the next day, I just the stream of consciousness. I write on Facebook. I go, I'm thinking about doing a show called Three on the Ones and Twos, which is like a hip hop term for like
Right.
DJing and stuff. And I go with 3 people, me, Cassy, and James Joyce, where we just drink Guinness and talk about our favorite records. Think about it as the coolest book club for music nerds. Well, I post that thing, and I've never gotten that much kind of response before. So many people responded. I'd watch it. I love it. That's a great idea. And then Brian Colantuno just sends me a note. He goes,
Yeah.
hey man, he goes, you shoot it here, man. I already got you sponsored by Guinness and Jameson. I'm like, what? Okay, done. Give me some ice to twist my arm.
Like Brian Colantuno, he's another person that it's like, yeah, we were running around with and you know, hanging with in the 90s, and you know, like another old friend. So it's just kind of, it's so nice to see. It's just fun. I mean, as somebody who's not in bands and stuff, so I don't usually have the same type of collaborations around music, which is music
right.
I love, you know, and then I have these collaborations with so many old friends doing this. It's like
Well, yes.
it's a way to get to hang out with old friends and have it revolve around something that's so dear to my heart, but that usually is just it's a pastime for me, you know, because I'm not a musician. So it's like I get so much good out of this idea.
Well, yeah. And he has just got a heart of gold. One of my favorite human, Brian Colantuno. Beep, beep. But like, I love that about you, and I love that we brought that together and how you represent it, because we've had people reach out going, hey, go women power, go girls. I love that Cassy's not in the band, and she goes head to head with you guys, and she knows just as much. It's so important. Renee has talked about it. We've had women guests that have talked about it, and it is such an important thing, especially these days, because unfortunately, these days, I think we're taking steps backwards in this country, and women are more important than ever. So even in rock and roll, let's give them the shout out and give them the microphone and give them the time and space to let them be heard, you know? So I love that, that you approached it that way, and certainly the way you listen to music as a fan and give your opinions on it, because they're all of your opinions are super valid. They're opinions that very close to the opinions that I would have.
I think that's kind of what, like, originally what it was just like, you'd be like, Oh, you have the best, you have impeccable taste in music, and I'd say you have impeccable taste in music, but the funny thing is it's like we have very similar, not identical, but very similar taste in music, so we're just kind of like
Yes.
complimenting each other, like complimenting
Yeah.
ourselves. Complimenting.
And let our viewers know, we are very aware of this and very comfortable with this. We, just like every other human, we have our ups and downs, and some days we're really down and insecure. So when we all hang out, all we do is stroke each other's egos and say, "You're beautiful. No, you're beautiful. You look good. No, you look good. You're gorgeous. No, you're gorgeous. You have great taste in music. You have better taste in music."
Well, I'm very, very excited that you came up with the idea for the show. I mean, it's fun for me to talk about music. It's fun to, I think it's also just fun being the person that's giving that to have a platform that you're able to hand that over to other people, that don't maybe don't normally get asked. Even musicians, a lot of times they're not asked, hey, why don't you just pick a record, just talk about it. You don't need to actually just say exactly
Right.
what you got out of it or how your music relates to it. You can just talk about that record just as a fan.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. I know for me, the thing that I've loved about it most, and I am in a book club as well in New York, where with my brother Scott and Holly Lang, shout out to wonderful people, where once a month someone picks a book, you read it, and you kind of see it. It's a lot of fun. You see what the person drank in the book. So if it's an old, if it's 1984, someone was drinking gin and tonics, we all did it on a Zoom call and we drink gin and tonics and we talk about the book. And it's this nerdy thing, and I love that. And that's kind of what we try to do with the music in the show. And the other thing is it's I love that it's someone might bring a record in that we, like you and I, didn't know much about, and we're like, wait a minute, not only is this the whole thing a great idea, but I'm learning too, and I'm a fan of this artist now,
Yeah.
or or even better than that, we got, I mean, we got to figure out a way to get this gentleman, Daryl from Canada, who's been
Yes.
such a wonderful fan. He
Yes.
always sends pictures and he'll do these screenshots, Daryl Buote, and he'll do a screenshot of like him drinking like a Stella and watching on his
On the
laptop. And
screen.
he's
Right.
like, man, he's like, yeah, I never really thought about that Tom Waits record before. Thanks a lot, And I'm like, man, this is so lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, he's great. Yeah, definitely want to work out a way to where we can do that for, the individual people that are big fans or have made like
Yeah,
yeah, it's like impact on us or impact that I like a lot about the show. I like that it highlights a lot of the Atlanta music scene, like just
sure.
guests and stuff, but also even when we some of the guests that we have from out of town, it's like even if they're not based here or if they're say fans or whatever, like how they're definitely people that have impacted our lives or that
Right.
visit in our way in some way. I love that, and so Daryl, I really want to get on. He's been the biggest fan of the show, I think.
And it's funny, and I do TCB Studios on the road because I work on the road, and so some of these some of these burn it downs are from me in a trailer in Nashville, or me actually in a truck outside a TV studio in Little Rock, Arkansas, or Philadelphia, or the West Coast, and luckily we have, like I said, this great lady behind the scenes, Renee Woski, shout out. And we get it done. We burn it down and we tell people, let's go for a ride. And what I'm trying to do, like we do on 3 and the 1s and 2s, like on this show, is I never ever want it to feel like an interview. I want it to be like a conversation.
Right.
Just like, and I'm really fortunate. I'm really lucky with that because I have such history with so many artists, friends, and people like you that are just great friends who we've shared so much. Some of my favorite concerts I've ever been to have been with you, So it's a really, really lucky thing. And I'm in a good headspace and heart space these days that I'm very comfortable to share it with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about all that. God, we could have a whole show just talking about the different shows that we've been to together that have really
I
rocked.
almost well that kind of leads to my next thing.
Okay.
And by the way, you get a 99 out of 100 right now as a guest. You're effing brilliant. Right now, I know Renee. I hope you feel better. She said her voice is a little bit of laryngitis, but I bet you she's dancing in pajamas, going, "Cassie's killing it. Cassie's
Aw,
killing it." But
aw.
the
Full
thing
disclosure to
is,
everybody watching, I did let you know I was like really, really nervous. So
yeah, but no one knows it. But thank you for being honest with the fans. But the thing is that that leads to my last thing for us to really talk about and hit on, because we have accomplished so much. But with this show, Three on the Ones and Twos, that goes on every Thursday night, we share it certainly on all platforms, but it's on YouTube and Spotify. And the whole idea is everyone, it's a book club for music nerds, to talk about one album over 30 to 35 to 40 minutes. We're trying to keep it down to 30 minutes, But where do you want to see it grow? Like ideas, like I know you and your husband were in Spain seeing some amazing bands. You've been on the road traveling lately. And then and you look great. And the shows I heard were awesome. I mean, were they amazing?
the shows were amazing. I mean, I have
Travel wasn't good.
the travel wasn't good. Delta really messed us over on the travel. And I would say for anybody, because Primavera Sound it's a huge, very prestigious music festival. It's kind of
Mhm.
like Glastonbury. I mean, they've been doing them for I
I
don't
think
know.
it's cooler than Glastonbury these days,
Oh
myself.
yeah, yeah. Except I will say for anybody that's been thinking about going, I wouldn't go for at least for another couple years because I know people that go regularly that have been to several, and they
Mhm.
say that this past one, the one that I went to, my first,
Mhm.
that they because they were canceled a couple years, they probably oversold and they made a lot of decisions to try to recoup money that
Poor
wasn't
decisions, yes.
necessarily, yeah, it made the experience not as good as it has been in other years. So I definitely want to go back, but I want to give it a few years to work out some of
Sure.
the
Yeah,
pandemic kinks and
yeah,
see if they can get it back to being because
right,
the too much was oversold. But yeah, the show
right,
was great.
right.
Well, Bauhaus, I was right up in front of stage, like
But that's I saw videos. It looked amazing. But that leads to, so while you were gone, we had to make some executive decisions, and you were completely part of it. And we said, okay, well, let's do something different with the show. And so James and I did a show without you, where we had an artist friend bring another artist friend as their guest.
right,
And that person picked a record, and that'll be on shortly. And then that person had the other person as a guest. It'll make more sense when you watch it. But we had a good time, and we realized, okay, well, we're very comfortable with watching things organically grow or going to other directions. So what are things that you would want to see? Like, I know for me, now that you just mentioned concerts, I would love to do an A part and a B part, two-part series of us talking about our favorite concerts. I'd
concerts.
love to do 2 or 3 episodes on each of us picking our favorite movie soundtracks.
That would be fun.
Like I'm thinking about like Repo Man all of a sudden, or the Pretty in Pink soundtrack was so important to me as a teenager, as an adolescent, or best compilation albums, best greatest hits albums, or even best tribute albums, like like 20 bands covering the Clash, or 20 bands even covering the Grateful Dead, whatever. But like these are such important things that I know the fans of ours, and then myself, you, and James, the nerds that we are,
Right.
who go into these rabbit holes, because I could drink a bottle of wine and go down a
Yeah.
Wikipedia and YouTube rabbit hole on a Friday night, and the phone's ringing like you were supposed to be on a date 3 hours ago. It's not happening. I'm hanging out watching. I'm
We
hanging out watching some Jeff. I'm
comments.
watching some Jeff Buckley documentaries.
Right, exactly. You watch some of the documentaries on YouTube. That's where I get a lot of my information, to documentaries on YouTube, and then even more so, like in the comments, like you'll get somebody who's cousins with somebody that has like inside knowledge on like weird stuff. It's just
Oh
really
my goodness.
cool to find out about.
I'm such a nerd. Today I texted Mike Sheena, and I just found out and heard on the radio that Toto was the backing band. The band Toto was the backing band for the Michael Jackson's Thriller album. The only thing that was played that they didn't play was the Eddie Van Halen Beat It solo. That song. Whenever I texted Mike
Are
Sheena,
you
Mike Sheena goes,
serious?
yeah, and Mike Sheena goes, "Oh shit, you didn't know that? I knew that. Yeah, I think they wrote half the album." I'm like, mind blown. No, I did not know that. It's like insane.
mind blown because I did not know that. Really?
My
Toto?
goodness. Yeah.
Toto.
Listen, there's so many things. It's so hysterical. But what are your thoughts? Like, what do you want to do to see?
Everything you just said is really, really great ideas. Great ideas. I would love to do all those. I would consider those that still kind of like the stand. I mean, I would like to kind of, I don't know. I think we need to have a meeting and like kind of discuss. I would like to find ways um to get the viewers involved more, whether it be like where the
Interaction, maybe some sort
where
of
the letters are, well, maybe where the letters are like more, coming from what more viewers want to see.
Yeah. You got anyone listening? Please hit me up or Cassy up if you have any suggestions, because we love working with the people that watch it and who've enjoyed it, and we love feedback. And I know not always is it all good. I've told people, people have told me, they're like, "Yeah, listen, you don't look so good on screen." For me, I myself, I watch like 5 minutes of them on YouTube, and then I much more enjoy putting it in my headphones and listen to it on Spotify. That's just me. I don't like looking at myself.
Yeah, so. I'm not like a pod, like an actual audio pod, because I have to have a visual to stay connected into what I'm doing. If I'm just listening, if it's music, that's fine, because I can do dishes or like clean or just drive or whatever and listen. But if I'm actually paying attention to like what people are saying or stories, I need something that keeps me visually interacted. But for me, but at the same time, I hate looking at myself. Like I hate.
Oh, stop! I think that all the viewers will say, "Well, you look a million times better than James and myself." James looks awesome. I'm just like, put a mask on me. We'll talk about it later. But I will say this. I want to give shout outs, because I've been meaning to Matthew Darrow, to Billy Idman, to Casey Yarborough, to Allison Yarborough, because these people, like, Casey and Allison have hosted several shows now. I love the episode we did with Rebecca Merchant at Casey and Allison's. I love the Bob Dylan one we just did with Randy Michael, which I'm super excited. I'm going to be in Randy Michael's studio recording a song this Wednesday night.
That's super so cool.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's great. Yeah. But what's really crazy is 33 minutes have flown by already.
Oh my gosh.
Anything else you want to tell the people?
No, I don't know. I can't think. I'll think of things after we're done. I know
yes, we should just make comments, like, because when I usually, when we end these, I end them, and then I watch it, and I've not. Luckily there hasn't been one. I've loved every episode of Burn It Down so far. So big shout out to Renee. Thank you, JP, who's done so much in the backgrounds. Thank you to everyone else behind Cosmos Creative Television. Thank you, Sandy D, who's helped out. Thank you, Jamie Bennett. Thank you, Dennis Tardon, who I think really was, the beginning of all of this kind of started with him and Renee working together. And then Renee hit me up and she believed in me. And all that stuff's huge. What's funny, because we always assume people like, oh, they got this. And I've done a lot. I've put out a lot of records. I've traveled and stuff, but I'm still insecure about things. And I was like, man, I can't do this show. Well, now clearly we are doing it, and it's successful, and we're having a blast.
Yep. I'm glad you have a show. I think it's exciting, because I think that's another way to spread you with, I don't know. I'm a big fan. I'm a big Tom Cheshire fan.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm a big fan of yours. And let me tell you, this brain is always working. We're not stopping with 3 on the 1s and 2s. We're going to be doing another show down the road, and you will be on it. I love you so much. I love our friendship. I think most of all, I'm super proud of our friendship, ups and downs and all arounds. But the cool thing is we always end up. And I think it's safe to say, I don't know how ballsy this is to say this, but I think we're closer now than we've ever been.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've always been close, but like, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that the show and all the different, we have we're connected to each other in like so many different ways, like just
Yeah.
with the friendships that are important to us, and then I mean,
Yes.
yeah, definitely closer. And I think because we have had our ups and downs, and like all friendships. I mean, who can be friends with somebody like
Oh my
close
goodness.
friends with somebody for 28
I
years?
mean, listen.
Not, you know.
Yes, I also am. We all listen. Why were we attracted to each other in the beginning? Because we're also a little insane, you know. So, but it's love is all around. Love is all around, and we're gonna burn it down. And and it's lovely and awesome and wonderful. And even with the rough stuff, we'll take it all because at the end of the day, it's all small stuff. And we appreciate the lovely, beautiful, big stuff. Thank you so much. Everyone, please, again, round of applause for Cassy. And a shout out to James again. I'll see you. Let's if I'm meeting. Oh, I think I'm gonna be in town to go see James. I'll play with Judy
Thursday.
Chicago on Thursday.
I'll see you Thursday.
Man, we're so cool. Let's go dancing.
Bye. Thanks, Tom. Bye.